Hello, I'm Kate. I'm technician at West Yorkshire Print Workshop, and I'm here today to show you a few very simple printmaking techniques which you can use at home whilst we are all in lockdown. They're great for printmakers who just want to keep going with at least some print whilst you've not got access to facilities. Also great for people who've got kids and want to do some activities which will keep them entertained, some creative stuff. If you do like the video and you feel like you want to donate something to us, then please do. I'll post the link to our local giving donation page, our charity page, where you can give even just a couple of pounds just to show your support. So without further ado, let's get going. So what I've got here are some pieces of cardboard. So this is a thin card, it's actually an old pizza box. We're going to use these bits of card as the base plate, and then we're going to stick other bits of card or textured materials onto the base plate. I'm going to use some bits of the same sort of card, which I've just drawn out some really simple shapes on, and I'm going to use some slightly thicker card as well to do the same thing with. I've also got some bits of egg box card which have quite a nice texture to them, and I've also got some string which I'm going to use to lay out onto one of the pieces of card and use to create some kind of texture. Okay, so once you have cut out your shapes, you're going to glue them down to your base cardboard using a little PVA glue on the back and sticking down. Okay, and once those have had a bit of time to dry, I'm now going to use PVA glue again, but this time mixed with a little bit of water just to make it a more paintable consistency, to seal the card before printing. This means that the ink is going to be less likely to, the paper is going to be less likely to stick to the block when we come to printing. And I have sealed my printing plates with a couple of layers of a slightly watered down PVA and dried them thoroughly. So you could either just leave them to the next day, or you could try using a hairdryer to speed up the drying time, but you do need to make sure that everything is properly dry because you don't want it to be sticky. So the other things that I've got for this part are a foam roller. Hopefully you might already have something like that hanging around the house. If you're very lucky, you've already got one of these hard rollers, and you can use that as well. The ink that you can use is anything that you have. So if you're lucky enough to have some ink at home, so some oil-based ink, you could use that. Obviously you need to use oil to clean up with. What I've got here is some leftover screen printing ink from one of our courses. So this is System 3 acrylic paint mixed with a System 3 screen printing acrylic medium, and what that does is slows down the drying time and acts as a retarder for the ink. You can try acrylic just by itself, but if you've used acrylic before, you'll know that it dries really quite quickly, and so you might end up with things sticking. I've also got some cartridge paper here, a little stack of I think it's 130 gram cartridge paper. I've also drawn a template, so I've drawn on a piece of paper the size that I want to use. I've drawn around my block in the middle so that I know that I can get things fairly central when I come to printing. I've also got a wooden spoon which is going to be for burnishing on the back of the paper when we come to printing. So I'm going to roll out some of my ink, this nice bright turquoise colour, and we're going to ink up the printing plate using the foam roller. So get some of your ink and roll it out to a sort of medium thickness layer. And then start rolling that ink onto the block. Now if you don't have a plastic sheet like this that you can ink up on, you can try using a clean baking tray that's easily wash upable. Or when you go for your next trip to the supermarket, you can always buy one and use it specifically for that. So you're just rolling the ink on. Always go back to it and get a little bit more, and you can put as much or as little ink on as you want, and you can roll in different directions. Okay, so then you're going to put your block onto your registration sheet. And put your paper on top and line that up with the paper underneath. And then you're going to use the back of your wooden spoon to burnish on the back. You could, if you've got one of these rollers, you could always use a roller as well. And what you can do every now and again is just pull it up and see what you've got. And if you want to do more, you can. I'm quite happy with that first one actually. There you go. And you can carry on going like this. What might happen is that your block gets a little bit sticky after a while, and it can start sticking to the paper sometimes. It also depends what kind of paper that you're using, but you'll just have to experiment, and it doesn't take much to make another block if something goes wrong. So as you can see, some of the paper does eventually start sticking to the block, but I'd say you could get at least 4 prints from each block, and they're really easy to kind of remake and try different patterns, different designs, different textured materials, and just experiment with it really.